Alrighty, guys, it's time for a steamer, hot take. And I tell you what, walking in this morning, there were a few boys that were steaming about the cricket. Holy, haven't seen this much passion since the rugby league season, which is like 2 weeks ago. So ever. Hammy.
Been a while.
You come in hot this morning.
Yeah, came in hot.
You come hot.
Came in hot. Potentially having a little bit of a bet each way with it here, but I think the sentiment stands. Marnus Labuschagne is one poor game away, or potentially already staring down the barrel of being dropped from the Australian Test team.
So, and we're for the casual audience, we're talking about a guy at one stage which was ranked the best batter in the world, correct?
18 months ago, he was ranked the #1 Test batter in the world.
What?
I'm not saying he's going to be dropped for good or forever.
If you were the coach, what would you do?
I think he needs some time off. He needs some time away. He looks absolutely fried, absolutely
Great
pickled.
Marnus.
Not like himself at all. So his last 10 Test innings are as so. 10, 1, 3, 5, 1, 2, 90, 6, 2, 3. I think he's all over the place. And the way that he got out as well over the weekend, he got dropped on naught, hung in there for another 50 balls, looked very scratchy, got hit a couple of times, leaving balls he should have played. And he ended up getting out for 2. Second innings, he was the last wicket to fall last night, let a ball go that hit him on the pad, burned a review in the process. He looks an absolute shell of himself where he was a couple of years ago. There's no denying he's a great player, but he needs some time out of the spotlight, I think. And I don't think sending him to Adelaide with a pink ball is going to do him any favours with Boomer and stuff. Going to get on a bit of a tear there. They may play him for one more, but if he produces what he's produced for the last couple, I think he just needs a bit of time out of the spotlight just to get himself right. So
these things don't happen in a vacuum. Often when, in rugby league at least, when you go, okay, this player should be playing reserve grade or whatever, the question is there someone better than him waiting in the wings?
Yep. Well, the answer to that at the moment is they've got Josh Inglis as the spare batter, who, he keeps in the white ball stuff. He's scored 2 Shield tons so far this season. He's probably the next guy off the rank. There's no one really banging the door down massively, but he just looks like he needs a break to me. I don't think having him in the spotlight's doing him any favours, to be honest with you.
A few numbers to add to it. He's 52 ball 2. Was the slowest strike rate in the history of Australian Test cricket for a bloke who's faced a minimum of 50 balls, which is bonkers.
Yep.
I think you mentioned a few there, but last 41 innings, he has 1 Test ton, averaging about 30 odd in that time.
I've got a question, and I'm probably going to get smashed by cricket fans, but could you argue, devil's advocate, his job was to go in there and fucking settle things down because we were getting fucking cleaned up?
I think there was a bit of chat that he even said, he's trying to soak up a bit of pressure.
That's what I mean.
But the fashion in which he was doing it, he was not in control of what was going on out there. He was all over the shop, looked confused. He wore a couple in the midriff.
But do you think that he could have been directed, and again, cricket fans, like, I'm a nuffy, I get it, but could have he been directed, mate, just go out there and fucking stay in for as long as possible until we take some pressure?
Absolutely. And you can take a bit of shine off the ball, spend some time at the crease, tie the bowlers out, that sort of stuff. But as sort of Hammy alluded to, there's a manner in which you do it, and he wasn't in control of any of the 52 balls.
When he's at his best, and when any good number 3, particularly if Australia's at their best, they're counter-attacking there, putting the pressure back on the bowler. There's none of that sort of happening. It's interesting. We spoke a little bit a couple of weeks ago, a lot of players being rested. The preparation hasn't been great. They've had 1 Test match since, their last Test match was in March. A lot of these guys just played 1 Sheffield Shield game and a couple of one-days, then rested. Some went to the Coldplay concert. I just think there was opportunities. These guys could have been playing the Australia A games, maybe against India, against these bowlers, getting a bit, apart from Bumrah, getting a bit of, some runs on the board. But they opted to not do that. I think the preparation's been really poor.
Is there a concern, and again, I'm a nuffy, but is there a concern that club cricket is taking too high of a priority over international cricket?
Define club cricket.
Well, for example, people say, the boys needed rest.
Yep.
And
what are they resting for?
But I was about to say, so if the boys needed rest, why are they choosing Australian games to rest rather than other
Sheffield, like state games?
Yeah, state or whatever they're playing.
Yeah.
Well, if they're preparing for a Test series, I'll be honest, there was a lot of uproar around the resting from the third Pakistan fixture, the one-dayer. It was over in Perth, and it was leading into the Test series. I actually didn't hate that much. At the end of the day, we care about World Cup wins when it comes to one-dayers. Of course, we wanted to win that series in a, third and deciding clash. But at the end of the day, Australians want to win Test cricket. And leading into a massive 5 Test series against India, I didn't mind missing that. But as you said, I wanted them playing, shield cricket or as much red ball cricket as possible if they are going to bypass Australian white ball cricket.
Yeah, well, they took a full-blown rest. They didn't play any cricket, these guys. No. And, if I understood it last year when we went from Ashes series to World Cup, it was very congested. If they needed to chop out before the summer of cricket, I understand. These guys haven't played any cricket this year, really. What are we resting about?
That's what I'm getting confused at. If they haven't played since March, did you say?
That was their last test match.
What cricket have they played since then?
There was a one-day tour in the UK and some T20s over there. That's about it.
Yeah.
And IPL. Some of them went and played IPL.
So when I say club cricket, I'm talking about IPL as well, I guess.
Yep.
Is IPL making them fatigued?
Well, that was back in May, June.
Okay,
So they've had a long time to get over it. I
know these are stupid question, guys. I'm just from a casual audience perspective.
And unfortunately, with the IPL, it's just money talks and the absurd amount. Like the auction started last night. We saw the cash that they were going for. Players going for, was it $5 million?
Yeah, Pant and Aya both went for $5 million. Not bad for 6 weeks' work.
Yeah, so it's like when you sit there and go, of course you want to focus on Australian cricket, but as if you're going to tell a player he can't go and get his $2-3 million for 5 weeks' work.
Just on Marnus.
So it's only 5 weeks. So I guess what I am, and I know this sounds silly, but what are they resting from?
No, I'm with you. The same question stands for me.
Yeah, you're right. Other ones, a few of the Australian players, or went over and played the county cricket in England as well, which is through our winter, their summer over there, and got enough cricket under the belt there. So then there's also things like the Vitality Blast and the UK 100 tournament, a bit more white ball cricket. There's cricket going on.
Because the way I look at it is I'm just comparing it to rugby league, and I go, okay, let's say round one is approaching, and India versus Australia, that's like round one for us. I'm assuming similar-ish. So how come there weren't pre-season trials? Again, guys, I know that sounds stupid, but as in how come they weren't playing cricket that was setting them up to be ready?
No, you're asking the great question, which I'm on board with as well. So what they would usually do for that is go back and play for their states in the Sheffield Shield, and then they picked an Australia A versus India A kind of series. So India sent some players out here to get some reps up. A couple of those guys have featured in this game and gone really well. That was an opportunity, I'd say, to put guys like Marnus, Steve Smith, guys that are struggling for form in, to go and find some. They didn't do that. They had a rest. What are they resting from? I don't
the best
understand.
one, and again, it's not overly viable because of the white ball cricket and the money that's involved in it. We want our best playing all three formats, ideally T20, one days, which, at the end of the day, Hazelwood, Stark, Cummins, they are our best quicks across all formats, which isn't necessarily like that with all the international teams. Like Nathan Lyon, he went over and played county cricket. This is like long form, red ball cricket in England. Great preparation because it's like they're getting reps under the belt.
And he's one of our older players as well, isn't he?
Yeah. So he was there, he did it, but he's obviously not in the Australian ODI and T20 setups as such. So he had the opportunity to do so.
He was only allowed to play 3 games as well by Cricket Australia, so he didn't get overworked as well. Yeah. So I just don't understand why are they being
There's got to be something behind it. Surely, because they would have the best strength and conditioning that of all the numbers.
Yep.
Maybe they've looked at some of the data and has the last couple of years fatigued the boys. There'd have to be some reasoning. They wouldn't just go, boys, just have a rest. They'd have to have some data that suggests they should have a rest. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
The other one on top of it, to Hammy's argument, it's such a tough one to approach, but you talk about replacements for Marnus Labuschagne if it was to happen, if he was to get dropped, and you like Josh Inglis. We were speaking pre-show about it, but Inglis, I sort of said, God, it's a good opportunity to let him play. There's shield cricket going on at the moment. An opportunity to go out there, get runs for his state, and then go, all right, you're in, Marnus, you're out. But Hammy made a good point. The concussion sub. Yeah. It happens so rarely, but if a player is to be forced out of the game due to concussion, who's the next man up? It's Josh Inglis, but it deprives us of that time, the opportunity of state cricket. That's an example of one player, but very relevant to the Marnus argument.
I mean, is it a massive concern that we've got one guy that can come in and play maybe for Marnus, and outside of that, there's no other names being tossed up?
Yes.
Yeah, it is a bit of a concern.
Because even Sweeney didn't go great in his test debut.
Even who, sorry?
Is it Sweeney?
McSweeney.
Yeah, McSweeney.
And even McSweeney was forced as a middle order batsman or a 3-4 to open the batting.
Go and face the best fast bowler in the world.
Question, and again, this might be really silly. Why did we have a debutant taking the first ball after India declared?
Yeah, there's a lot of chat about that. Should Usman potentially have gone, I'll soak up a bit of pressure here. But the argument to that is maybe McSweeney goes, the best way for me to settle down is to get out there and
have a hit early?
Yeah.
They would have had that conversation.
Yeah.
They had the convo about who wants to face it. And you can only assume McSweeney said, we'll put it this way, Usman hasn't gone and said, I'm not doing it. So I can only imagine McSween said, no, I'll cop it. I'm ready to go. Let's do this.
Yeah.
I just wonder, and like just from a purely sporting perspective, in such a crucial moment where we can't afford to be losing wickets, it's more important to not lose wickets than it is to give a young fella a crack at the first ball. Like my priority list, is like, it's great that this young fella wants to have a go, but it's more important that we don't lose a wicket right now. And I want to put my best guy in there, which would be Usman.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good point. I don't know. We probably won't find out because the whole line from Australia will be like, no, he wanted to do it. He said he wanted to get out there.
Someone should pull rank then. Like, that's where I think that they should go, love that you want to do it, but we are in a position right now where we're so far behind that we can't really afford to take that risk.
Yeah.
I fully appreciate your point, and you might be right.
I don't know if I'm right. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
In my eyes, it's all about like an opening batsman. First test, it's all a mental game. It's all in your head. And if he's sort of said, "No, I want it," I think, all right, mate, you're confident. You want to face it head on.
Yeah.
Take it on.
And to be clear, I'm just playing devil's advocate here because I don't know enough about cricket to have a good opinion on it.
Don't sell yourself short.
No, I'm just a devil's advocate here.
Yeah. Just on Marnus, I was going to say, I also feel the batting has been a little bit not where he'd like it to be, and we know he's been the number one batter in the world when it's all together for him. I feel like he's spending a bit too much time on other stuff. He was a part-time leg spinner. He spent a lot of time trying to get this seam-up bowling stuff going. I don't know what we were doing there. Why, when you've got three of the best quicks in the world, you've got Marnus Labuschagne coming on to be the enforcer bowling short stuff. That was a very tough watch. I don't know what others thought about that yesterday. I thought it was almost a bit of a low point there as an Aussie cricket fan.
Yeah, I was going to say, question, that last 30 minutes where we were almost time wasting, is that a fair
bowling
assessment?
For a declaration, basically, yeah.
Like, when we're already losing by so much, to almost, unsportsmanlike is probably the wrong word, but like to use that kind of tactic to save us maybe, 20 runs?
Yeah.
Is that a rough amount that we're trying to save ourselves there? Maybe 20 runs?
Yep.
Is it worth us looking that bad to not get 20 runs put on us when we're already behind by so much?
Yeah. I guess it's like when you get to that point, it's usually you're basically waiting for the other team to declare by that point.
Yeah, okay.
And all they needed to do was get Virat to 100, I think, was exactly when they declared. So they were just going, how can we make that process take as long as it can? So that's when the negative bowling came into play.
And that's where it's like, we may have a bit of egg on our face, and it's off the back of the captaincy of Yashasvi Jaiswal, who I think second test captaincy, obviously filling in for Rohit Sharma, who will come back in later on in this series. But he got them on the front foot, the Indians. In that passage where they had so much time to play with, 2.5 days, they could have sat there and batted out, played very, very cautiously, gone through to early tomorrow and that sort of thing, given Kohli extra time. And he said, to Jaiswal, Kohli, Pant, all these blokes, just said, no, play aggressively. I want to crack at them tonight. Did it. Obviously, Kohli brought up his ton just before on the declaration, and then they went bang, came out and took 3 wickets. Like, Bumrah, very early days, he hasn't put a foot wrong as a captain, and I think so many test captains over the years have been way too cautious, and some of our better ones as well. So aggressive, and it's worked a treat thus far.
So what has changed for India? Why have they gone from getting smacked around by New Zealand to smacking us around? Are we just not going that good? Or are they just going great?
Well, we had poor preparations we've touched on. Not enough players played enough red ball games leading into the summer. I feel there's a few that look underdone, including the skipper, Pat Cummins. They will come good. I think, particularly some of those, I would anticipate he'd come good, but he looks a touch underdone. The other thing is just India just seem to grow another leg when they play Australia. We haven't won a Border Gavaskar series here or there for 10 years. So I don't know what it is, but I did kind of say it last week, even though Kohli looked pretty busted coming into this, I was like, I just got this weird feeling he's going to grow another leg against Australia. And he kind of did the other day. And we bowled them all back into form. All those guys that were struggling all got a few runs now. And they're only going to get better. Sharma and Gill will come in for the next test as well.
He's got, I think, 7 test tons against Australia now. I think it's his 10th international ton in Australia. 7 tons against Australia.
But, is that 7 against Australia in Australia?
In Australia.
Plus
Australia.
number 2.
Yeah. And he, as Hammy said, we've played Kohli back into form. I don't need to double check this, but I don't think he'd scored a test ton in 23 months, almost 2 years. So there's that. There's Rahul, who'd been out of form as well. He came out and hit 75, 80 odd as well. So that's the biggest concern moving forward, that we have played the out of form batsmen back into it. I have no concerns about our bowlers, I'll be honest. I think, yes, the second innings was terrible, but They also got very little support from the fielders as well. Like Carey put down a catch. Jaiswal was put down by Uzi, I think Carey. There was Travis Head at third man where he came in off the boundary as well. I don't know if that was his decision or if it was Cummins, but whilst it was bad, we also rolled them for 150 in the first innings. Like people are forgetting that very quickly. The issues with the batting across the series, I think our bowlers are world class. They'll bounce back from this, from a terrible innings, but the batting's where there's just a lot of issues.
Could it be a situation of, because we didn't have much prep, it's almost like that round one game where you see an NRL team come out and they look so disjointed and you're like, what the hell? And they just need that one hit out. They come out the next game and they're like, yep, they're back to where they're at.
Here's another argument. We've had Australia put the first test in Queensland in Brisbane for as long as, well before I was even alive, because we always win there. And now there's this argument, why did we move away from the Gabba? Because, to your point, the first test, you may be a little bit underdone, but the conditions suit Australia so much, so you always get a 1-0 lead there. I know India did beat us there last time, I know that, but there's that argument as well. Why did we move it away from the Gabba?
And to follow on from that point, Matty, like going over and playing in Perth for the first test, a lot of concerns about, were our bowlers underdone? Like, did they look tired? They looked exhausted. Playing over in Perth, India, it wasn't a spin-friendly deck. And it's always favoured the quicks and the extra bounce in the pitch, which, to be fair, can help Lyon as well, who's has one of the best abilities to get bounce out of a deck for spinners in world cricket. But, like, India didn't pick Ravi Ashwin, Jadeja, two of the better spinners India have ever had, and certainly as an all-rounder in Jadeja. Went against them, they had Washington, he bowled a handful of overs as a spinner. Lyon didn't get much purchase out of it at all. So then, because there's so little spin efficiency in the deck, the quicks have had to bowl a lot of overs. They ran out of steam, so that has not helped one bit either.
I touched on it last week, I think, and on the B team a couple of weeks ago, the Cam Green being out, Mitch Marsh having to do a bit more bowling. He bowled 5 overs in the first innings. We bowled about 150 in the second, and he bowled 12 of them. Was off the field a lot, getting treatment, all that sort of stuff. I got some big concerns that, we're going to need an all-rounder who can bowl a lot more than that. So my man, Bo Webster, is playing right now. Probably by the time this comes out, he might have nicked off early, but he's currently not out of the crease at the SCG. If he gets some runs in this game and a couple of wickets, I still feel he could have a bit of a role to play in the series as well.
I think you're very harsh on Mitch Marsh. Again, he got 17 overs out across the 2 innings, 3 for 77. So he took 3 wickets as a, bat-heavy all-rounder. He's a reigning AB Allen Border medal winner. He hit a 97 or something in Shield only a month or so ago. So I just think, again, the fact that Nathan Lyon hasn't had his impact and it was so favourable to the quick bowlers, we go throughout the series. Lyon's going to take up a lot more overs. Marnus can bowl leggies. He can take up a few more overs. I don't think we need a lot of overs out of Mitchell Marsh, so I think you're very harsh on him.
I don't think Marnus will be there for the bulk of the series. I reckon next game you might get away with it, pink ball in Adelaide. The last 3, the decks will be real flat. You're going to need a guy to bowl 15, 20 overs. I don't think Mitch Marsh can.
But even all right, let's say you take Marnus out and his overs, and I don't mean his medium paces, I mean his spinners. Travie Head, he can bowl a few as well. He can get a few out of him. Again, our bowling attack's world class. I think this second innings of India's, I think it was a one-off. I really do.
I think you're going to need a 4th seamer, and I reckon these guys having to bowl for almost 2 days, that's going to have a compounding thing for the rest of the series. 1 or 2 of these guys are going to have to get rested or will get an injury.
All right. If you wanted another seamer and you weren't confident of Mitch Marsh, could you bring Bo Webster in for Marnus, or do you think you'd prefer Inglis?
I could see that. Maybe they go, Mitch, you just bat, and they bring him in. But I feel like there's going to need to be they're going to need some seam overs from someone else.
There you go. Totally agree with both of you, which doesn't make any sense.
What are the chances?
I thought about chiming in on about 8 occasions with the most pointless shit imaginable. I'll stay away.